The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has cancelled special registration concessions previously granted to candidates with albinism, citing widespread abuse of the policy through identity manipulation and examination malpractice. The decision was announced in Lagos during a meeting between JAMB management led by Registrar Professor Ishaq Oloyede and Commissioners for Education from the 36 states and the FCT ahead of the 2026 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. According to Professor Oloyede, some candidates allegedly used artificial intelligence and other means to falsely present themselves as persons with albinism in order to benefit from special consideration, with over 7,000 candidates claiming albinism in the previous examination year. As a result, JAMB has discontinued special registration procedures for albinism candidates.
Registrars will address broader integrity issues in the admission process, including undergraduate sitting UTME for others, underage admissions, deceptive practices by some faith-based institutions, and efforts to curb malpractice through stricter accreditation of CBT centers. Now, JAMB maintains that the move is necessary to protect the credibility of the examination process. The decision has raised concerns about its implications for candidates with albinism who face genuine visual and health-related challenges in standardized testing environments. Joining us to discuss this further is the founder of the Albino Foundation Africa. He's joining us in the studio for the very first time.
Doctor.
Welcome, Mr. J. Good to have you here.
Good to hear. Well, we started as the Albino Foundation.
Yes.
We've transited because now we serve a wider community of persons with disability, and so we changed our name to TAF Africa.
Great.
I don't usually like to explain what that stands for, but I will.
Please do.
Because this is one of my favorite channels. Other channel, please don't hear this. It's the All Right Foundation, you know, TAF Africa, All Right Foundation. We're beginning to have a footprint in some other African countries, you know. So that said, first of all, I think I want to put this across. I am a person with albinism, and I'm very proud to be a person with albinism. That said, the concession which individuals like me with several organizations fought for is now in trouble. And ironically, I was the chair of the committee that investigated, and we flagged this issue of people trying to use our face because some biological reasons, biometrics, like there are certain cameras, when they take my photograph, if you watch the photograph, you see a red dot in my eyes. So because of our issues with our retina, there's certain light elements that we rebuff. So that gives these fraudsters the opportunity to actually take my face, blend it with another person's face, and get completely a different individual, maintaining the facial structure. That's a mere, just a common man explanation of what is happening. And they've been exploiting this using the faces of persons with albinism. And so JAMB did the right thing by, it's not a cancellation per se, it's a suspension of the concession so that at the back end we will identify who is truly a person with albinism, and the person eventually will get the concession one way or the other.
So it's more like a suspension pending conclusion of an investigation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in touch with Professor Oloyede, and we are talking to make sure that we have a criteria that any person with albinism can follow. And once he's then identified as a person with albinism, you know, he gets the concession. The concessions are much more than what you're seeing.
Yes, what are these concessions?
Yeah. Okay, so there are fees concession attached to it. For instance, I belong to what they call Equal Opportunity Group, JOG, which conducts examination not only for persons with albinism, but for persons with disability. And that's a good work that often is not often talked about. You know, the fact that JAMB has a special examination day centers for persons with disability. And JAMB will pay for them to come in, put them in a hotel, give them the best of food, give them gift, just for them to participate in that examination. Now, many of us who are invigilators are paid honorarium. You know, sometimes in the context of honorarium, some honorarium don't have honor, but that's not what I'm saying. Sometimes we need to laugh off these things. So what I'm saying is, even at that, for instance, the issue of time and a half, which has not been, many of the examiners are not practicing it. The time and a half concept is a global concept that says if there's an examination, if a person with albinism or visually impaired person is taking that examination, if the examination is for 1 hour, that person will have 1 hour 30 minutes. It's a time and a half concept that's been there from time immemorial, they say. You understand? Yeah. So apart from those special examination, having access to those special examination, there's a return on some of the fees. There is also something that Oloyede personally will do. Once you go through and you're able to pass your exam, Prof and many of us will painstakingly ensure that you get admission, provided, because we promote meritocracy, yeah, provided you are able to meet and surpass the cutoff mark, we will ensure that you get admission. And then there's also a follow-through as you are in the university or any tertiary institution. We just follow through to make sure you are getting access that you require. Take for instance, I'm at loggerhead, and I'm sure Mr. Sawyer is listening to me, with NEL Fund. NEL Fund gives loan to a blind candidate, will not give any form of loan or support services to the aid. How will the person go to school? How? If you give me a loan and I cannot see, and you don't give the person that will lead me to the school, invariably, I will take the money and put it somewhere else. I won't go to school. You know. So sometimes I think government policymakers and implementers need to listen. I put this information, I have written to NEL Fund. I have copies of the letter that I wrote. I spoke to Mr. Sawyer. Granted, he admitted that, yes, something can be done, but they are not prioritizing it. And I think that needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. If you send a person with albinism to school, by the way, you know, guys, there are times I saw you and you have to like introduce yourself again to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I do struggle, despite the glasses which don't help us. This sort of protects me from light. Okay. Yeah. So we do have challenges. So if I'm going to school, only if I'm not able to read that, what is on your screen, I'm not able. Like you sat here and you were reading teleprompter. I can't. So I have to leave either with hearing you, memorizing the tone of your voice, and responding to what you say. You know, I do have some technology that I can use, but if I open it, I have to squint and bury my eyes into it to be able to read it. These are some of the challenges. So when you give a loan to persons with albinism and you're not giving him anything he needs, when I set up my computer, I set it up in such a way that there's a lifter that brings it up to my eyes. And that's me. And that's because I can afford that. What about the common man? What about the person whose parents is looking for 1 square meal? He can't afford that. So when you're giving such loan, you have to strategically think of the support services that you provide, so that the person that you're trying to help will enjoy the help and make the most of it. The most vulnerable in our society must not be forgotten, and that's why it is important that every time there's a policy, I've done 7 policies for this country, every time there's a policy, we need to sit down and ensure that the people you're making policies for are in the room. Because you don't know what I feel, you don't know my challenges until you start asking questions, until you start engaging, until you allow me to be part of the process. You know, so there's so many issues that policymakers sit in the room with their air condition and their suits, and they don't know that you're making policies to the people that you don't even know what they feel and how they will handle issues. So these are some of the things. The concessions is not absolutely removed.
It's just paused.
It's just paused so that the wrong people will not take advantage of it. Okay. If you know Oloyede, Oloyede is one of the most compassionate Nigerians that I know. Please, I don't work for him. I'm just stating the truth, and that's it.
All right. I mean, from a disability rights perspective, you've already highlighted what the challenges are. But for those who are watching and those who are listening now, would you say that this decision aligns with the commitment to have an inclusive education?
Oh yeah, it looks a bit maybe discriminatory in the surface. But that's not the intention, and that's not what we'll achieve. I can tell you that. You know, the idea is to ensure that the wrong people will not take advantage of a right policy. Once the system is put in place to checkmate that, then we will achieve inclusion than the exclusive menace that we are seeing today, where people are taking advantage of a good policy to ensure that the people that policy is made for will not partake of it. Yeah.
Okay. So what measures will then be put in place? How are we ensuring that the right people are the ones who will have access to these services? I know you said it's temporarily paused. There's investigation. Is there maybe like a directory? Is there what are the steps that are being taken?
Smart question. Smart question. Now here's the thing. I started this organization 20 years ago, you know, and so I've entrenched system. I have leadership at the grassroots. I've raised people. So what we're doing currently is pull back and engage systematically. There is the Commission for Persons with Disability. Okay. There is an organization, a parallel organization, which I started called the Albinism Association of Nigeria. They're well structured because I handed over several branches across the country to them. I'm getting old, so I pull back for the younger ones.
The next generation.
Yes, for the younger ones to continue. And I'm very proud of the work that they are doing. So these are organizations with systems that we can check. The issue with persons with albinism is very easy. If you have albinism, number one, you have a visible presence of lack of melanin. Two things makes you a person with albinism. One is ocular. That means you do have lack of melanin, and I'm choosing my word lack. Lack does not mean absence, it's insufficient. Okay, so you do have insufficient melanin. Melanin is the chemical composition that is responsible for coloration. It's not only for skin, and that's why God is an awesome God. It's not only responsible for skin, it's everything in you. It is melanin that is responsible for the color of your blood. And like I said, Olive, as pretty as you are and handsome as you are, we're all the same. Why? Under our skin runs the same color of blood. God is an awesome God. We are the same. So because of this lack of melanin, you're ocular, even if you have a black hair, but you have a routing eyes. That's ocular. The other one is a V grammar. I'm going to try and break it down. It's called oculocutaneous. Ocular cutaneous, defective, so to speak, eyes, or eyes with a condition, and a skin with a condition. I wasn't born with freckles on my skin. I acquired freckles because as I expose myself in the sun has a way of forcing a pseudomelanin. So it produces on my skin as black spot called freckles. Now it's not that dangerous, but it can be for those of them who are exposing themselves in the sun. You never see me without a hat. I'm trying to cover my face that has already been destroyed by the sun, So obviously, when you have albinism, you're either ocular or oculocutaneous. Do you need a soothsayer to know that I'm a person with albinism? It's there. So we will follow physical examination of albinism. We will follow scientific examination of albinism, so your eyes can be tested, if you claim to have that. And then, of course, we can also follow track records. What is it that you've done? If for instance, if you tell me you have albinism, and I'm suspicious that you don't have albinism, I just open this and say, please read this for me. And you read from that distance, and I say, let's close the book. Please go back. You don't have albinism.
So if I hear you correctly, there's also in terms...
And there are also medical procedure to find out one who have albinism.
And thank you for detailing this. Just to clarify, I know that just like you've mentioned, there are people who don't have complete albinism. There are those who it's maybe the color of their hair that is affected, and maybe not the other parts. Do they benefit from these concessions? Having
albinism is not a status per se. It is a biological condition. All right. So if you're an ocular means it's only your eyes that is affected. So you still have albinism. Now here's the shocking thing, Olive, because you can be as dark as you are and still have the albinism gene.
Yes.
And it's just waiting for manifestation because it's recessive. So it jumps from one generation to the other. I have 3 beautiful kids. 36-year-old son, see, I'm an old man, and 30-year-old daughter, and a loving 8-year-old boy who troubles me, who thinks I'm his mate. He says, Daddy, you must call me Judah, my prince, and he calls me Daddy, my king.
Nice.
Lovely boy, smart. So the point I'm trying to make here is, for the category of people we're trying to deal with, you're ocular or oculocutaneous. There must be that feature in you that qualifies you to benefit from this, So if you are the way you are with your good eyes, yet you probably gave birth to a person with albinism, you're not qualified. You're not qualified. You carry the gene, but the gene did not come into manifestation. So you can still use your eyes. Your skin doesn't really stop you from going to the sun. But I want to also put a caveat. Even when the manifestation is not in you, be careful. Because if you are a gene carrier and your gene is positive, you can still pick up skin cancer. I'm a skin cancer survivor. There's another manifestation right now that I'm treating on my leg. It is damn too expensive to treat. So we need to continue as much as possible to do the right thing, to protect ourselves, to ensure that this concession that is meant for these most vulnerable are not exploited by those who are not that vulnerable, who should be able to do something for themselves and leave those that are marginalized to enjoy this concession.
All right. Marginalized and also enjoying the concession. I mean, those two things, we can put them in one context. For those who are enjoying it and those who want to take advantage of it, now it has been, as it were, put on pause. Any direction on when it will be resumed?
Well, it will. It's almost, in fact, before this cycle is over, it will be resumed. But what we were trying to do is take a back seat, work from the back end, and ensure that the right people will benefit from it. And once that is done, You know, maybe one of the thoughts that just crossed my mind now is to work ahead of time. We're not going to wait until the policy or the implementation is activated. We're going to begin to scrutinize whoever that wants to be, or maybe they will pass through the association, you know, and I want to say categorically that I know that the association will not put any criteria. So it's not like, oh, you have to register, you have to pay. No, it's absolutely free. And I will also use this opportunity to appeal to JAMB to support the association, you know, in the way of building their capacity, helping them to have a structure, giving them the opportunity to understand how the system works so that they can help in identifying these people. It's also an opportunity, and this is to a larger community of persons with disability. The digital illiteracy amongst us is alarming. I can tell you 80% of persons with disability cannot open computer. They don't know what.
Wow.
And in this technological age, you can't survive without technology. You know, for some of us, nobody taught me anything. I learned the hard way. And I can tell you today, I'm an expert in many of the software, but that's me. So there's a need, for all the tech guys, please, you need to invest in technology that will help people with disability. Let's start with simply building their capacity to be able to use computer, you know, and all that. So basically, JAMB has that responsibility to help the association build them, because the category, the demography of kids that are going into school is huge.
Yeah.
You know, and so we need to put, yes, we have policies, but we need to put implementation strategy in place so that we can get results. Because a bad policy is a bad policy if it's not producing results.
Okay, so now we've talked about what strategically we want JAMB to do. And I know you've also spoken about digital technologies and saying that a lot of tech entrepreneurs should invest in tech that would improve the quality of lives of people living with albinism. As a
people living with disabilities
in general. But I also want you to talk about how we're faring as a society, because I wouldn't have thought about it, which is why it's important what you said, that the people who are impacted the most need to be in the room when certain policies are being made. I wouldn't have thought about it that they would need, a person living with albinism, for example, would need extra time, like the 1.5 rule that you've mentioned.
A time and a half.
A time and a half. So how are we as a society, you know, how far have we come in how we treat persons with disabilities, persons living with disabilities? And I mean, let's just get your general assessment of where we are and projection for where we ought to go to.
Well, you see, some of the things we've been pushing, some of the narrative, is to take away this concept of tokenism, charity. You know, well, you know, Jake doesn't see, so please make sure there's light in the room, you know, and move to a right-based approach, you know, where you know that it is his right to enjoy certain privileges. It's not set aside for some people, and for some people, they don't get it. You know, how has the society fared, Olive? We haven't done much. We haven't done much. There are all kinds of policies in place. There's all kinds of systems that they are trying to either cultivate, evolve, implement, but those things are not, we're not seeing tangible result and impact. I just came out of a retreat with my team, and I said to them that I am troubled in the sense that I want to see life transformed. I want to see transformational change in the life of the people that we're leading. You know, I want to see more people go to school, and I'm beginning to also probe myself. When I started, I was sending kids to school, you know, at a point that we had 250 kids in school.
Wow.
You know, I was able, by his grace, to send Oluchi Iwa to Aberdeen University. and she came back with a master's degree and 3 others, you know. I want to see more of that. So I'm beginning to look at adopt a child, you know, talking to some of my friends, using my own personal resources. 2 of my cleaner in the office and the girl that is at the front office, both of them, by His grace, have been able to send to university.
Oh,
that's the kind of thing I want to see. I want to see tangible, evidence-based transformational change. If I walk into this room, Olive, and see you the way you are, and leave here, your life have not been transformed, I haven't fulfilled my purpose. And that's, for me, that's what we say. This society, if one person is left behind, you know, others can move forward. So this society owes it a duty, not mere privilege, to ensure that persons with disability and the most vulnerable, and can I further stretch it, women, youths, and persons with disability. And that's the full concept of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, we want to ensure that this society caters for them. If you don't, then you're not an inclusive society, you're an exclusive society. If you do, then you're an inclusive society. You know, I like what News Central and so some other news outlets are doing. You're beginning to ensure that your conversation is inclusive. You know, before, what would you have a person with albinism on screen on a national television doing? Today, it's changing because we're pushing the narrative. We need inclusive media. You know, and by the way, I've been taking Kayode to the task. I want to see a person with disability, a person with albinism read your news. Now it's possible because there are teleprompters that once you put your laptop, it's running on it. I wish that happened in my time. I would have been a very good newscaster today. I was running away from newscasting. I was more, I'm still getting too old. No. I was more interested in presentation, you know, and all that. So the society needs to understand the complexities of persons with disability. There's something I don't want to let out of the bag, but something I'm going to do in our meeting, that ongoing meeting, you know, but because I want people to have a lived experience of what it means to be blind, of what it means to sit on a wheelchair, of what it means to walk into the room and you get all kinds of negative staring, you know, and all that. And the fact that people don't respect you sometimes until they see what you're wearing or they hear your expression, you know. When people walk up to me and say, Jake, I think I like your analysis, even though your albinism didn't stop you. And I say, stop that. You know, I'm just who I am. I'm not who I am because of what I do. I am who I am. Just like money doesn't make me who I am, money adds to what I am. You understand? So the society haven't done well, but things are changing. To be honest, things are changing.
I think that this is a very important conversation to have. You know, when we talk about sustainable development goals, goal 10 is reducing inequalities, and it is bottlenecks like this that ensure that people don't live the best quality of life. Oftentimes when we talk about equity, like just to further buttress, there's an analogy I saw once. And in this analogy, everybody was supposed to be watching something from a distance. But there was somebody who, you know, was living with dwarfism. As a result, he couldn't see further. Equity would be ensuring that you put him on a platform that gives him the right or the ability to see things from the same length that every other person who is taller than him in that room can see it. So giving them equal opportunities might mean 1 hour in the exam room for one person and 90 minutes for another, and maybe 2 hours for another. Equal opportunities to thrive. So it's important that, you know, what you're doing is important, and we thank you for taking time to come here to speak with us and to represent, you know, be a voice for change. We hope that we can have you again when we have report from the investigation. I'm here at your service. Oliver, I want to use this opportunity because I watch you and I see beyond the rhetorics. I see beyond the lips, the passion. Please make that decision today that you can take 2-3 persons with disability, women in particular,
let them become your mentee. You have been graced by God and given certain influence. You have a voice, you have a face. Let's use it to be the ladder that others can climb and see further. Your analysis is fantastic. So please, many of them will be very happy to have a celebrity friend like yours, and at the same time, my good-looking brother. So let's see what we can do for this society. Let's not leave the society the same way we made it. I want to go to grave one day and beat my chest to say, I served my generation.
You are indeed
you've done that already.
generation.
I mean, with the list of the things you've done. Thank you so much, Dr. Chike.
Thank you for joining us this
Good
morning.
to see you live.
In Lagos.
Live.
Thank you
Live
so
in
much.
Lagos.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So good.
And thank you, Kayode, and the team in News Central for what you do. The news starts with News Central.
Absolutely.
It does start with you,
Thank you so much.